Hello, welcome to Carolina Classrooms. I'm Laura Ibarra. As students and staff head to class, school safety is a priority topic of conversation. On this episode of Carolina Classrooms, we'll hear from school officials, educators, and law enforcement about the physical, emotional, and psychological factors that go into keeping South Carolina's schools safe. School districts across the state have plans in place to keep their students and staff safe in the event of an emergency.
In the Office of Security and Emergency Management, our primary responsibility is to ensure that there's a comprehensive school safety plan in place in all Charleston County School District facilities. That involves emergency planning, drills and training, physical security measures, security staffing and school resource officers, as well as threat assessment, detection, and response. So much of the time, the school security discussion is dominated by active shooter events or armed intruders, but really a comprehensive school security plan contemplates a variety of situations, anything from severe weather threats to flooding to that armed intruder event. But a plan doesn't do you much good if you don't have the proper training and drills in place as well to ensure that your staff and that our teams don't know their roles and responsibilities within that plan. So ensuring that we provide adequate training to our staff members, whether it's in our new hire orientation process or through recurring training with our staff members through staff meetings or tabletop exercises, going to administrator meetings, or conducting our drills throughout the year with our staff and students.
We work hand in hand with our resource officer to ensure that our building is secure on a daily basis with locked doors. And we have access points, a primary access point to the building where we are actually able to visually see who's wanting into the building. They ring a doorbell, we allow them in. There's another point there where they check in at the front before they're ever allowed entry outside of the lobby area. So we have a secure system of allowing people in the building and beyond the front door. We also work to do drills within our building so that students are aware of what they need to do in certain situations. Of course, we do monthly fire drills, we do earthquake drills, we do tornado drills, we also do active intruder drills, and those are things that we coordinate with our safety and security officer at the school district office along with the sheriff's department and our resource officer. And we work together collaboratively to review what we do with those to make sure that we are on point with providing the safest environment for our kids.
The staff here in Rock Hill Schools, we have several avenues of training. There's a multitude of training available to all of our staff. There's a requirement that we have them go through with our safe schools, and they have some training on mandated reporting and the typical slips, trips, and falls and bloodborne pathogens and things like that. But we some additional things that we do is we send all of our staff through the standard response protocol, which is our safety measures that we have posters posted throughout all the schools. That is a live in-person training. So we go to the schools, and myself or our training coordinator, we will meet with these teachers and walk them through this entire process on what to do from start to finish, depending on the level of emergency that exists. So we walk them through each one of those to ensure that all of that is followed to fidelity. Then we also require them to have a certain number of those drills, a lockdown drill and a secure and a hold throughout the course of the school year to ensure that not only the teachers are prepared, but the students are prepared as well.
I feel safe here. We do a lot of training. We do safe school trainings. We do drills all the time, it feels like. So for the most part, I feel safe daily at school.
Most of the time, yes, unless there's like an unprecedented fight, because sometimes people just argue and then they get into a fight, and that always feels kind of dangerous. But we don't typically have those, and it usually feels like a really safe environment.
I do feel safe at school, very safe. Our administration, our staff really makes it comfortable here, makes the students, the community, as well as the teachers very comfortable and safe feeling. We're like a big family, and we are here for one another and encourage one another, and we have each other's backs if we need them. If somebody gets sick or whatever, we cover each other's classes. I feel like the students feel safe and comfortable. They're willing to participate in class discussions and different things that we have in our classroom, and they come to teachers or guidance counselors if they have an issue that they need help with, because they know that we're going to be there for them and we care for them. We talk about our safety procedures that we have at school, how we do them within my room, so they're comfortable and they know exactly where to go and what to do in certain circumstances. I always ensure them that I'm there to protect them, that they are like my own children and I love them and I care for them, and I'm going to do my best to keep them safe. When Texas had the mass shooting, the students had talked a little bit more about that and what would we do and how would we be, how safe are we, and I reassured them about, the doors are all shut and locked. The front, they have to get through a lot before they even can get into the school. So I assured them of just the safety procedures that we have at school, but then I just reassured them again in the classroom that, we would just be as safe as possible and protect them.
I don't bring it up, but if a student wants to talk about it, then I'm more than willing to talk about it. I think one of my jobs as a teacher and a coach is to build relationships with students. And I think I have a pretty good relationship with my students. So if they want to talk about it, then my door is always open. We can always have a conversation about it because it's real life. It happens. So it's not something that I would shy away from, but it's also not something that, I would just voluntarily bring up.
A positive school climate contributes to school safety. Students and staff who feel welcome and safe in the learning environment will feel more comfortable speaking up if there's a problem.
The school climate has a lot to do with if students feel safe. If the climate is a positive one, if students feel seen and heard and they feel like, they have adults that they can trust and, that their voice matters and their opinions matter and they feel like, I'm wanted here, I have a sense of belonging here. That goes really hand in hand with students feeling safe. That climate, does the climate foster, students being able to speak out or being able to, if they see something wrong or if they see something that's, not safe or a student may do something or say something, do they feel supported enough to go to an adult and say what they saw without any repercussions or, being bullied by other kids? There's a lot of issues that surround climate in the school. It's not just if there's an SRO in the building, it's every single human being that's in that building. I like to think about the school environment as an ecosystem, and everyone has a role to play. And those roles can be interchangeable or not, but people should know the role that they play in that ecosystem because it's all interconnected and everyone has a job to do or a role to play. Even the students, are a part of that. They're the center, I would say, of that ecosystem, and all the work that's done in schools is for children and for those students. So it's really important to have that cohesive environment and everyone to be on the same page.
We need to have an environment where students come to school each day. They feel comfortable to be here, feel comfortable about things that will go on around them, and then that way they can settle in and do the things they need to do learning-wise.
I think a lot of that comes from the top down, and I have to be positive on a daily basis. I have to work through things in a positive and professional manner. When we interact here in the building, it's very much a family-like atmosphere. Everybody has everybody's back. Everybody is working together towards the same goal, educating our children, but also creating an environment that is welcoming, that's open, that's inviting, and an environment where kids are stimulated mentally and want to engage and interact with each other.
School resource officers play a major role in keeping students and faculty safe. Making sure the building is secure is a big part of the job. Creating relationships with students before there's a problem builds trust in law enforcement.
Every kid in this school come here for one thing, and that's their education. And my job is to protect them and make sure that they can get that education.
The primary role of the school resource officer is three-dimensional. We get an opportunity to be basically the role of law enforcement officer. We enforce the laws that may, things that may happen in the school. We want to act as a mentor, role model within the school, and also we're there as a resource and teach as an educator. We do the law-related educational classes and things like that. So that's primarily what we're doing. We got some officers that are also into coaching as well too. So we've got a number of roles that we do there, not just for security, and that's it.
There's that concept of pipeline to prison, but with my presence and any SRO presence, my mindset is be that pipeline to change. Hi, scholars. What's up? How can I help change these kids' mind at an early age instead of waiting until you get to middle school to try to build a rapport, build a relationship with them? So you get 8 hours of you seeing an officer that look like you, that love you, that speak like you, and just keeping it real with them. But starting at the elementary level, they get to see an officer every day that really cares. And hopefully when they get older, you know, if they ever get in any type of situation, they'll remember my face, remember my words, and say, hey, that's a good police officer. Not all officers are bad, but just maybe that one glimpse of that good morning will make their day or help them through whatever situation they got going on.
Just keeping an eye out for each other. Let's say somebody is having that emotional day to where either they're upset or they're just overly sad. Just make sure that they tell somebody, that way we can get them the support that they need, whether that's their favorite teacher, guidance counselor, or even myself. I'm a mentor to quite a few of our behavioral students, so they come in, they take their time out. If they're not comfortable talking right then, I'll leave them in the chair, step out in the hallway. They can, some of them are light and auditory sensitive, so we'll turn off the lights and just keep the door slightly closed to where they can go in there and get that reset when they need it. Because I walk around, I talk to kids, they know my face, they know me, and I'm always joking. So when I have to talk to them like that, they understand, oh, I messed up. So they understand the difference between when I'm Mr. Bailey in the hallway, I'm Mr. Bailey in here, and when Officer Bailey has to show up. There's a dynamic shift.
Because I was a teacher, I understand how important it is to have a safe learning environment. I think that just opens up so many more things for the kids and for the teachers. So we understand, because we were in the classrooms, we understand how important lesson plans are, how important it is for the kids to feel safe. So we understand that if a teacher's having a rough day, maybe we can step in and help just a little bit. And because that's what we were needing when we were as educators. So I think that's it's a major point for us to make sure that these teachers and kids feel safe.
I think today's environment, obviously there's always that concern in the back of your head, but that's what our role is. I mean, we train regularly in all types of critical incident responses, not just that active shooter mindset, but we also just look at the safety in general as a school. I mean, we do assessments on school to help build out their security just on the physical level. But I mean, that's our job. That's what we're dedicated to, is keeping a safe and very efficient learning environment for your kids.
It all comes down to your training. If the kids are trained to do these different types of things, hopefully they'll fall back on that. Just like we as law enforcement officers in certain situations, we rely on our training a lot of times. And the more that you drill and do these types of things, it becomes, you react to what we call muscle memory. You react to do those things that you're trained to do. So that's what we try to do as a school resource officers, try to help implement any type of program to help them to be able to continue to be safe within their schools.
As school resource officers, we take every opportunity we can, teacher work days, half days, to train. And I think training is the most important part, because it puts you in a situation where you know what your next step is if something happens. So and that's what we try to, when we're doing these fire drills, we kind of use that philosophy on our teachers, and we really push them hard to make sure they're doing the right things during these drills. Because training is extremely important, because it's gonna, if something bad were to happen, that's when you really find out, what kind of police officer you are.
I have children in Charleston County Schools myself. I think the thing I would say is it's very rare, but like Officer King said, we are, every chance we have, training for those things that might happen, but oftentimes we see them on the news and it would make you think that, you know, something like that's happening every day. It is very rare, but we do need to do the things that we have to do to be vigilant in case something like that were to happen here.
Oh, my biggest concern is always keeping a threat outside of the school, that nobody will come in this school and cause any harm to any of the faculty or the scholars. That's my number one. That's it. Like, they can come in here and do their jobs and feel safe. If I can't help promote and protect that type of atmosphere, I'm not doing my job well. And that's my number one concern, making sure that everyone that walks through these doors are safe.
The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division provides security training for law enforcement and community partners.
The purpose of the training is to prepare all first responders or anybody who could assist at an incident or post-incident. We're preparing South Carolina for any type of active violence or any type of active threats, what we do to respond, what we do while we're there responding, how we get victims and innocent people away from the location so they can be reunified with loved ones, and then how we start the process of recovery for the community. Today, the people who attended training, we had first responders from really all over the state. We had Anderson County, we had Greenwood Police Department, Greenwood County Sheriff's Office, we had the Lexington County Sheriff's Office, West Columbia, Casey, and many others. Basically, these are participants in the program who either provide instructors or take the training with great consistency. They also support the training at training locations, at their agencies, and other places. So it's a partnership with SLED, and everybody you saw here today is involved in that partnership.
We have a lot of varied classes that we do, where when we first started out, it was basically active shooter type training for a classroom. We're doing that again for teachers, administrators, students. Now we're doing reunification training so that, you know, if there's an incident, how do we reunify the parents and children together, stop the bleed training. So we're offering a lot of different training today that we didn't. You know, we offer training for bus drivers and how to respond to an incident if somebody was to get onto a bus. We're in the process right now of developing a class for special needs students and special need teachers.
A special needs teacher, we go into their classroom, we show them more than we show the standard educator, and we talk to them about the reality of moving their students post-incident, what that looks like, how they can make the process more efficient, that type of thing.
We're looking at right now trying to come up with what we call a Center for School Safety. You know, we're doing all this training that we offer to schools, administrators, teachers, again, students, and we're looking at putting something in place that's more permanent, something that we would have training conducted every week for schools. We've been discussing this idea for the past year, had discussions with Superintendent Spearman about it. And so we're looking at how we can go about trying to establish that Center for School Safety to where we would have a permanent location that we would be conducting training every week for schools, that people could sign up for classes, SROs, teachers, administrators, maintenance folks. Everybody that works at a school needs to be involved in school safety in one way or another. And we want to be able to try and design that center around that effort.
About 5,600 school buses transport 350,000 students to and from school every day in South Carolina. The Department of Public Safety works to ensure the trip is a safe one.
Since the 1980s, a trooper has been assigned to the Department of Education's Transportation Office. We work very closely with them. This is my full-time job. I deal with school buses every single day, and it's to promote safety for students, to promote safety for our bus drivers, but to also promote safety for other motorists who encounter these school buses every day out on our roadways. There's 4 danger zones around the bus. That's directly in front of the bus and on either side of the bus and directly behind the bus. These are areas where it's hard for the bus driver to see someone if they're real close up against the bus. So what we ask a student to do is to take 5 giant steps, which is about the equivalent of 10 feet away from the side of the bus. That way the bus driver can see them with the mirrors and things of that nature. All of the new buses here in South Carolina, there are 360 cameras that go all the way around the bus, so when that stop sign is out, up in the driver's mirror. The bus driver can actually see all the way around the bus. That's something that's helpful for them to be able to see those danger zones. Proper riding procedure. We don't want to be loud on the bus. We want to keep our voices low. We want to make sure that we're sitting in our seat with our feet forward, our knees forward, keeping our hands to ourselves, and remaining seated the entire time of the trip. Those seats are designed to protect a student in the event of a crash. That's why they've got high backs. That's why they're close together. So it's almost like a little egg carton. If you're sitting in that egg carton properly, you're going to be okay in a crash. There's many emergency exits on the bus. A bus driver is required to check each one of those emergency exits before they go out for their route in the morning or their route in the afternoon to make sure that they're functioning properly. There's an alarm that goes off if any of those are open. It's also important that students know where these exits are. Students are required, and bus drivers are required, to conduct bus evacuations twice a school year, once each semester. So a student that rides on a school bus should expect to be able to do a bus evacuation drill with their bus driver at least twice a year.
Driving a school bus is very easy. When I first began, I was intimidated, not gonna lie, because this is a big vehicle. But once you get behind the wheel, there are so many mirrors here that it makes it very easy to be able to drive. And honestly, it is just like driving your car. You just have 50+ students behind you that you have to look after. Communication skills is a big part because students, especially middle schoolers, they're finding themselves trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. Elementary school students, they're leaving mom and dad for the first time, and you are, as a professional school bus driver, you are the first and last face that some of those students see. So having good communication and empathy is a huge part of being a professional school bus driver.
There are approximately 7,500 bus drivers statewide. Now, that includes people who drive a route on a regular basis, as well as substitute drivers and teachers and coaches who may drive an activity bus or may possibly drive a route on a semi-regular basis. There are approximately 500 driver vacancies statewide. We have partnered with a company to develop a recruiting program for recruiting drivers as well as technicians. It's stepupsc.com, and going through that particular website provides a link to all of the HR departments and districts around the state, as well as the South Carolina workforce website, where they can go and take a look at vacancies for technicians.
There's more to bus safety than just the driver. It's a big puzzle. You've got folks that work in the bus shop where we're standing today that make sure that the buses are running and functioning properly. You've got that driver who's behind the wheel, who is entrusted with getting kids to and from school and school-related activities in the safest way possible. You've got the students who have responsibilities, and then you've got parents. Parents play a role also in making sure that their students are familiar with school bus rules. But then you've got the last part of it, that's other motorists. So there's a lot that goes into school bus safety, and it's not just one thing, it's a bunch of things put all together.
One of the newest officers at the Richland County Sheriff's Department has a wet nose and fluffy tail. Meet therapy canine Leona.
Her job is basically going to be emotional support. So as a therapy dog, we can use her with victims, we can take her to schools, we can use her for our own deputies when they are going through some traumatic events. We can take her on scenes. I mean, there's just no end to what we can do with her. I named her after the sheriff. The sheriff had actually called me, and the idea was pitched to him by Chief Cowan of KC Police Department. They were getting a therapy dog. Unfortunately, it was after the death of Drew Barr. And then the South Carolina Department of Transportation had brought down one of their dogs to kind of help the deputies go through the grieving process. And so when the idea was pitched, and the sheriff called me and said, hey, would you be interested in having a therapy dog? Because I ran our crisis intervention team for about a year before moving over to investigations. I thought it would be kind of fitting to name her Leona after him because of that. There's a couple reasons for choosing this breed. Number one is their temperament. So with Golden Doodles, they have both the best traits of poodles and golden retrievers. They're very, very intelligent dogs. They're very smart. They're very easy to train. She can usually pick up a new concept in just a couple of explanations that we go through with her trainer, who is Robert Varney. He owns a dog training, like an in-home dog training business, and he's phenomenal. He's been working with her over the past 2 months. The other reason why is because she has to go visit schools, hospitals, nursing homes. If you have an individual who is bedridden, you want a breed that's going to be large enough to be able to walk up to the bed and be able to put their head on the bed. That way they're not jumping up. They kind of meet an individual on that level. So this breed seems to be able to do that. As you can see, she's very, very friendly. That's the other thing. They're very, very friendly, and they're very good with other animals and small kids. So she can get on a child's level because she's, you know, about the same size or a little bigger than a kid. But she'll come up to them. She'll kind of do what she's doing now, kind of get close to them and kind of like nudge their hands, get her to get them to pet her, and so she'll do that as well. So kids love to interact with her just for that reason, because she'll reciprocate what they're doing. Yeah. What she typically will do, she'll go up to someone and she'll just kind of put her head on them, and they'll just start petting her. And she's very engaging, so she wants to touch people. She wants to get close to them, and so that's kind of what she does. She's a presence that's there. And I know a lot of people, when they're stressed out, they like to pet an animal, and she loves the attention, so it's kind of a win-win.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back on TV November 17th. Continuing our conversations on school safety, we'll focus on the physical and mental health of students and staff. We'll talk about the importance of physical activity and learn some mindfulness and deep breathing exercises to help with relaxation. You can find more education stories from around the state on our website, carolinaclassrooms.org. Like our Facebook page and let us know what you'd like to see on Carolina Classrooms.